Hey guys, so one of the most common questions that I get on my stream is how do I survive better as Hollow Palm? My character feels really squishy. Every time I jump into a pack of mobs, I feel like I just die instantly. What am I doing wrong? So I wanted to answer that question today and teach you guys how I survive as Hollow Palm. First of all, if you're still in campaign and you're having trouble surviving as Hollow Palm, you're most likely just using the wrong skill. I would highly recommend you use Stormwave. For the most part, if you're using Stormwave throughout the campaign, you pretty much have no issues with survivability. You're just going to breeze through and just clear everything with ease. So that's what I would really recommend. Of course, there's also things about gear, about like, keeping your gear up to date and things like that. But for the most part, you guys kind of know that already. I think most of you guys are probably just using Ice Strike and just dying because you're rushing into mobs and they just one-shot you. Unfortunately, during the campaign, it's really hard to keep our survivability up with our gear. So as a result, you're going to keep your survivability up by keeping your range from the monsters and also trying to deal more damage to them. So yeah, that's pretty much a kind of one answer thing. Like, this is pretty much a silver bullet. But as for the end game, the answer is not always one thing. First off, I think that, of course, make sure your gear is in line. Of course, making sure that you have as much energy shield and evasion as possible on your gear to make sure you're as survivable as possible. For me right now, I have about 4.7k energy shield and 52% evasion, a little bit more when I'm in combat, but around 50-something% evasion. Now, this is actually a fairly low number for what I've seen from the other people that have showed me their characters. But for the most part, I have found that this number that I've hit right now is plenty enough to survive most things in the game, in the end game. So it pretty much is not much of an issue for me survivability-wise. But again, if you are finding that you are having some trouble with your survivability end game, maybe check out your gear. Make sure you have all your resistances in order, right? If you're not playing CI, maybe trying to get a little bit more chaos resistance. But other than that, it's pretty much just like that, better gear. But for most people, and what I've seen that most people are having trouble with, is not because of gear. A lot of people come send me their POBs, their POE ninjas, and like, hey, what am I doing wrong? Am I using the wrong gear? Am I using the wrong skill tree setup? And a lot of you guys have better gear than I do. You have more energy shield than I do. You have more evasion than I do. But you are having a lot of trouble with survivability. So with that, I would say that a lot of it has to do with your playstyle. Actually, before we get into that, I do want to let you guys know that, of course, make sure if you're playing CI, you have a basement. That is going to help you a lot with stun and getting stun locked. But also, the biggest thing to help you against stun locks are stone charms. If you have a stone charm, it will make it so that after your first stun, it'll give you about 3 seconds of immunity from getting stunned again. So that is going to be another thing you want to do. But again, playstyle is one of the biggest reasons why I think a lot of people are dying on Hollow Palm characters. Now, of course, this is mostly for the Ice Strike players. I'd say that most people are playing Ice Strike, most likely. Some of you guys are probably playing Tempest Flurry. Some of you guys may be playing Flicker Strike or maybe like Falling Thunder or something like that. But for the majority of you guys, I do think most of you guys are playing Ice Strike, and this is going to be the biggest thing. I'm going to throw in this map right here, which is going to be, it's not like the most dangerous map. It's just extra damage is fire, but it is a fully decked out map. And I'm going to go in and show you guys why you might not be surviving and what I do to survive. So again, it has a lot to do with playstyle, which is the main thing with Hollow Palm. Sadly, it's not a kind of build that you can really go in and be like, unga bunga, willy-nilly, do whatever you want. You kind of have to be a little bit methodical about it. So, because most Ice Strike players use Ice Strike, well, of course, if you're an Ice Strike player, use Ice Strike for your main AoE and single target. Because of the nature of Ice Strike being a mostly single target ability, you're really relying a lot on your Shattering Palm for clear. Ice Strike and Shattering Palm, unfortunately, well, Shattering Palm a little bit less, but Ice Strike is a single target ability at the end of the day, being carried by Shattering Palm to be able to clear maps. And as a result, if you get surrounded, it can be really hard to get you out of that sticky situation. So the first thing that I do when I am fighting enemies is making sure that I'm never getting surrounded. So when I'm choosing my fights, right, I'm making sure that, again, Shattering Palm is the one that is carrying the fight, and I know that. So I always throw my Shattering Palm on a very squishy enemy. So I try to pick some of the squishier enemies to throw it onto, and then that way I can quickly finish it off with Ice Strike afterwards. Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to kill an enemy with Ice Strike, the first 2 hits really don't do that much damage. It's really only the 3rd hit that kills most enemies, so you really want to be careful about it. You want to open up with Shattering Palm on a weak character. That way you could potentially get your first hit to kill it, right? That way you're minimizing the amount of time that you're spending in front of an enemy and just having Shattering Palm carry the rest. So find an enemy in the front lines with low amounts of health, right? Like a random white mob or like, you know, a smaller mob, not one of those big meaty boys, right? Do that and let Shattering Palm carry your clear. You don't want to use Ice Strike for clear. You want to use Shattering Palm as your main driver. As a result, you're going to want to find a squishy enemy to put that on. And then you'll see that Shattering Palm just kind of takes care of the rest. And then as you can see, sometimes you get in a sticky situation where you might get like a desynced attack or something like that, where you get into a group of enemies, like in the middle, right? And you start whiffing your attacks because your character becomes desynced. Well, in that case, the moment that you realize it, roll out. Get out of there. You don't want to get surrounded. Don't keep kicking. Don't keep punching. A lot of times you're just going to be punching air at that point because your character's not actually where it's being displayed. That's kind of like an annoying thing about Path of Exile, where when you're using these like blinking moves, these teleporting moves, it can tend to happen. And with Ice Strike, it just happens more often than some of the other abilities. So again, make sure you're trying to target a squishy enemy, right? And make sure you're attacking an enemy that is on the kind of outskirts of the fight, as opposed to the kind of in the middle. As you can see, this enemy's kind of fat, so it's kind of hard for me to kill him. It takes me a little bit, right? So ideally, again, if you can choose, go find a squishy enemy. Sometimes you don't have the choice, but for the most part, if you can, do that. Now, for people who are using Bell, another piece of advice that I have for you guys is, as you're going through your fights, if you see some bigger enemies, right? If you're seeing some tankier enemies that you feel like you're not going to be able to Ice Strike like and kill pretty quickly, drop your Bell. Your Bell comes up pretty often. It's a 4 combo ability, so for the most part, you can just kind of spam that thing. So if you see an enemy that's kind of not as squishy, or if you're having trouble killing enemies fast, especially in a big mob situation, drop your Bell. Your Bell will provide you with a lot of extra damage and also make it so that you are doing AoE damage that your Ice Strike normally isn't, which will help you with clear, which will make it so that the enemies are not going to surround you and kill you. So for the most part, that really is kind of the main thing, right? Attack enemies on the edge. Find enemies that are kind of on the lower health side, so you can let Shattering Palm carry. And if you get a kind of bigger enemy, of course, use a bigger skill, like if you're using, for me, Gathering Storms, or some of you guys are using Falling Thunder, right? Use that on the big enemies to clear them quickly, because more often than not, your Ice Strike is not going to be able to kill them that fast. And if you're not using those and you're using Bell, drop a Bell on them, and then that'll kill them pretty dang quick. I'm going to show you what happens if I don't play like this the way that I do. I'm going to try not to die. I'm going to see if I could avoid dying, but it might just end up getting me killed, right? I'm going to jump right into the middle of this pack, right? And I'm going to get surrounded immediately, right? I'm going to start getting hit. I'm going to start getting stunned, and it's going to happen. Of course, right? My character is pretty strong geared. I have Leech. I'm not going to die most of the time, but you can see things are quite a bit iffier. It's not as easy and simple as what I was doing before, which in most cases, I actually wasn't really taking any damage, right? The moment that I decide I'm going to go and YOLO into the middle of the pack, that's kind of what happens. I just get surrounded, I get hit, I might get desynced, and then I'll die. I'm going to try to open up this breach, because this is going to be a lot of mobs, hopefully, and then be able to demonstrate you directly like what happens when you dive into a group of enemies and you just get surrounded. Also, another thing is, again, if you feel like you're getting into a bad situation, just try to roll out. Don't try to get in there. See, like, look, I get in the middle there, right? And I just get absolutely surrounded and I start getting wailed on. Don't do that. Don't try to be a hero. Don't jump into enemies all willy-nilly like that, right? Roll out if you see you're in a dangerous situation. Pop a Shattering Palm on a weak enemy, blow it up, then it will cascade and kill all the enemies around it. And if you're playing Chayula and you have Leech, you will leech a lot of your HP back. So that is another thing that'll help you a lot with your survivability. But other than that, those are kind of like the main piece of advice that I have for you guys. Again, at the top, right? Attack enemies on the edge. Let your Shattering Palm carry you. If you get in a bad situation, don't feel free to disengage, roll out, like be aware. When you're hitting your Shattering Palms, hit it on a squishy enemy on the outside, let it carry. And then also, if you're in a situation where you're up against a beefier enemy, or if you're in a big mob and you are using Bell, drop your Bell, and it'll help you a lot with damage for that single target, but also kill a lot of the enemies around you. Hopefully that video helped you guys out. Again, it really is a lot of times, from what I've seen, more of a playstyle thing rather than a gear thing. So as long as your gear seems like it checks out, if you're still dying, it's probably a playstyle thing, which again, I would say that my gear is fairly modest, 52% evasion with 4.7k energy shield. It's not that much. And of course, if you're built like me, more on the squishier side, you're going to die every now and then. Every now and then, you're going to get in a sticky situation, or you're going to get into a fight with an Abyss mob. They're going to have some huge hit that's going to one-shot you. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be bad. If you want those situations to be better, of course, build more survivability. But again, most of the time, it is a playstyle thing. Let me know in the comment section below if this video helped you out, as well as if you have any more questions. And as per usual, if you enjoyed the video, please, the best way to support the channel is by hitting the sub button. It is completely free and lets me know that you enjoy the content. And also, I stream every single night on twitch.tv/MeSelectShiru, and I'd love to see you guys there. But if not, hopefully I'll see y'all on the next video. All right, guys. Peace.